My name is Aditya Biswanath. I am the co-chair of the Higher Education Network Committee. It's part of HLNY, and I'm joined tonight by a great group of individuals you'll hear from very soon. And so let's get started. So just a couple of quick things. Please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat throughout the event. If you have any questions, please insert your questions into the chat. And as we get towards the end of the session, we will be looking at all the questions. And so please again feel free to do that. And I will be interactive and monitoring the chat. So I will keep an eye out for all of your questions. And so tonight, as I said, we are here, the professional playbook, resumes, interviews, and LinkedIn strategies. So to kick us off, I'd like to introduce everyone to Darren Deoraj, the current HLNY president. Darren, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you so much, Aditya and Catherine, and the entire Higher Education Network team for Healthcare Leaders of New York, and of course, our incredible sponsor and partner in the work that we do to help our professionals within our market rise up, develop, and continue to advance excellence in their work every single day. Again, my name is Darren Deoraj, and I am your 2025 Healthcare Leaders of New York Chapter President. HILNY is one of the largest chapters of the American College of Healthcare Executives. Our focus is on educational, professional development, service activities, networking, and so much more. Your chapter is here for you across your entire care journey, across your entire career journey, every step of the way through your phases. Your chapter is here to support you with resources, with insights, with forums, and with so much more. As an example, today is another example of that value we look to provide you, our community, and our members. Your chapters, you are your chapter, and together we are Healthcare Leaders of New York, and it's our solemn commitment to ensure your success every step of the way. And I'm so happy for today's events, and I thank our incredible HEN committee, led by Catherine Aditya and Professor Michael Gatto, Tandem, for their incredible support for HILNY throughout the years and their work to developing the next leaders of tomorrow. I now will turn it over to our Vice President of Healthcare Leaders of New York, one of our incredible professors within our market, and a leader here within New York as well. Professor Michael Gatto, please take it away and help move us forward in today's program. Thank you all. In a day of technological advancement, sometimes I think our technology may not work as well as we hope it does. And I believe we're waiting for Professor Gatto to log back in. There's some sort of IT glitch. I'm sorry about that. I think some of the updates he wanted to provide you, and Aditya and Catherine can jump in to support me in this, is to go over the fact that we have incredible upcoming events, mixers throughout the rest of the year, HILNY's holiday party, December 2nd, and there's even more higher education network programs, resources, and meetings that are gonna occur and happen. And so we'll go over a lot of that towards the end as well. So stay with us throughout the entire session, because this is for you, our members. Without further ado, I'll actually turn it over to Rebecca so that we can ensure the value of our program and start for all of you, if that's okay.
I actually believe, Jay, I think Professor Gatto was able, I think we've
Hello?
resolved you. Yes, hello.
Okay, great. Go ahead. Professor Michael Gatto, please take it away. Thank you, sir.
And can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
All right, welcome. I'm not sure what's going on here, but anyway, welcome and thank you. It's really an honor to present to you this evening the HEN mission, higher education network mission. And this program, which is extremely invaluable for your current and your future career journey. The Higher Education Network is dedicated to you, the future early mid-level careerist. Our goal is to provide you with as much enrichment, guidance, and even mentorship that will allow you success in your career. And that's really the mission of the hen. And with that, and you will see on this slide, besides myself, there are a substantial number of people that contribute, that make up the committee and contribute to this mission of enrichment and education, recognizing student needs, but also recognizing careerist needs. And we kind of combine it all together in order to provide you with a very enhanced experience. And that's our goal. And that's the goal of Healthcare Leaders of New York. We have a number of opportunities for both student and early careers. As you can see, we have the Richard Stoll student essay competition, and you'll be able to go online and take a look at each one of these. But each one of these provides scholarships for those documents and those submissions that are selected and that meet the program's requirements, and you'll find it very enriching just to actually participate. The American College, uh, the American College Congress Program Assistant allows a hands-on event, allows people to participate and apply directly to the American College of Healthcare Executives, which would allow you to experience what we call the ACHE Congress in March. And it is the grand program and enhanced learning of all healthcare executives, mid-level, early level careerists, and students. And is also the author and Sharon Gianelli Early Careerist ACHE Congress Scholarship. And you'll be able to read that. And Mr. Gianelli, as you know, is an executive over at One Brooklyn Health, and he's also our regent for the Healthcare Leaders of New York. Healthcare Leaders of New York, and an opportunity to meet him next week in his own program on our channel, HLNY. And then there's a tuition waiver assistance program, which has to do with our attending the Congress. And you can read more about that, and the HEN committee will explain more about that as we progress on. Now, without any further delay, I would like to introduce to you our moderator for tonight, Catherine Sanchez, who will bring us through the agenda and then introduce the panelists for this evening. Catherine.
Thank you, Professor Gatto. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Professional Handbook, Resumes, Interviews, and LinkedIn Strategies. My name is Catherine Sanchez, and I'll be moderating tonight's discussion. I'm a program manager at Northwell Health Institute for Community Health and Wellness, and I serve as co-chair of the Higher Education Network for the Healthcare Leaders of New York. So I've spent about a decade growing within Northwell and starting as a patient transporter and now working as in program management. So helping students and early careerists navigate their own paths in healthcare is something I'm really passionate about. And right before we jump in, I want to get a sense of what's in the room. You'll see Aditya is going to put in a quick poll for us to assess where we are currently in our career journeys. So just please take a second and just answer the poll. So which of the following best describes where you are in your career journey? Are you a current student, early careerist, currently in a career transitioning, exploring new opportunities or paths, or anything else? Okay.
Okay, we have about 70% completed, 75%. So I think we could share the copy of the can end the poll. Yeah, 80%. All right. So
Thank you, everyone.
there we go.
All right, so thank you so much for this. We have 25% of current students, 30% early careerists, 42% in transitioning careers. So this is great. We're so happy that you're here, and we have other. So these are really insightful and helpful contacts. Thank you again. And it's great to see all of you with all these mix of experiences. So I'm excited to introduce our panelists from Tandem Group, who will be sharing their tips, their resources, and interviews strategies. So I'm going to welcome Rebecca Guerrero, and we're going to start with you. And can you tell us a little bit more about Tandem and your team?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting us here. We're incredibly excited to speak with you all. Here at Tandem, we are a healthcare staffing and recruitment firm. What we do is connect with candidates all throughout the nation and ensure that we could help them find their best opportunity. We also connect with the actual hiring managers themselves to ensure that we are understanding what they're looking for and we could best make that match. All right, can we move to the next slide? All right, perfect. So we're going to delve into 3 main topics today. The first one will be resume writing. Next will be LinkedIn strategies, and into interviewing. We will field as many questions as we can as we move through this. As always, drop them in the chat. Make sure you have it set to everyone just in case. And then let's move to that next slide. Thank you so much. This is just a little bit of a deeper dive. It's referencing some of the AI tools that we use here. They are all internal. So rather than, the typical things that you see on like an Indeed front or a LinkedIn front, which we can talk about a little bit further, ours is more set up so that when jobs come in, we're able to quickly find candidates that have recently reached out to us and interviewed with us and make that connection faster. If you jump into that next slide here. All right, this is where I'm going to introduce my lovely colleagues here. So just to recap, I am the managing director here at Tandem. I've been with us for a little over 9.5 years now, and I'm also functioning as the DE&I chair for just about 4 years here. My focus is working with the actual healthcare companies and ensuring that we make that successful match. My 2 colleagues here, Julie and Juliet Gallicano. We have Julie Stevens, who is the senior staffing manager, bringing over 6 years of specialized experience, and Juliet Gallicano bringing 9 years of specialized experience. They both have extensive backgrounds in recruiting. Their day-to-day is focused on working with the candidates themselves, and you're going to hear in depth from them as we go through about how we're really looking at resumes, LinkedIn, and handling interviews. Next slide, please. All right, resume writing 101. So this is where I'm going to go ahead and pass it off to my lovely colleagues. Julie, would you mind taking us away?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. So let's see here.
Oh, would you move to the next slide? So sorry to cut you off, Julie. There you go.
Okay. All right, so let's see here. So basically, wait, sorry, I know we have a series of questions, so I just want to make sure I'm going into like the first question right now.
Of course. So
Okay. Okay,
thank you so
perfect.
much. So yeah, this is great. Thank you so much for sharing. Right now we're looking at how to make your resume to succeed. So before we jump into this part, I want to kind of explain for students, because we have some early careerists here. Well, Julie, can you please just paint a picture of what is talent acquisition and what do you actually look when a resume lands right in your mailbox?
Yeah, of course. So talent acquisition overall, I would say is like the strategic process of sourcing, attracting, and hiring top talent. And so I am a senior staffing manager here. So basically what I do is I place candidates and making sure that they align with both the role and the organization's culture. And, there are some expectations that we are looking for when reviewing the applicants. So, I'm looking for clarity, relevance, transferable skills, and, potential in every resume. Some of the expectations that, we would have are, clear formatting, keywords, very important, relevant experience, and then once again, transferable skills. And then also, always looking for a sense of professionalism and attention to detail.
Okay, thank you. And then can you tell me a little bit more about this resume that we're currently sharing for everyone to see, and kind of these highlights, especially for everyone who needs to update their resume. I mean, I need to take mine out and dust off of it, of course. So,
Yeah, of course. So obviously, you want to make sure that you have a professional email address at the top. I mean, you want to make sure that it's visible when you're looking at it right away. It could be also under the first and last name. Ideally, it really doesn't matter, but you want to make sure that there's a clear email address. You want to make sure that you have your phone number, and then you want to also make sure that you have your city and state as well. And then in regards to a summary of qualifications, you want to make sure that you're keeping it very like short and sweet. You don't want to be too extensive on, sharing those qualifications. And then going right into the experience is also super important. Some people do put the education before. Like I said, it doesn't really ideally matter, but you want to make sure that the experience is going to be relevant and pretty much right there. So you want to also make sure that you're being, relevant, and then having as many bullet points that you can to make sure that it's going to pertain to whatever job that you have. Making sure that you have the month and the year to whenever you started to present. Like, for example, if you started in 2023 and you're still there, you always want to say present. And then also just going into the education, making sure that you have your school degree and then the year that you graduated. Or if you are still in school, you want to make sure that you put current. I think that's super helpful for people as well. Sometimes it can get a little bit confusing. We see on resumes that maybe they will just list their school and they don't have any date. So you're just wondering if they're still there or not. And then you always want to make sure that you're listing any certifications and trainings that do pertain to, whatever job you are applying to. And then just always making sure that you have the name of the certification, when you obtained it, if there's an expiration date, that's super important as well. And then also you want to make sure that you have your name on multiple pages. For example, if you see down at below, for example, Rebecca's last name is Guerrero, so you can put that on the bottom. And then also you want to make sure that you have your LinkedIn hyperlink as well.
okay, so what about for people for students? Should they list their education on top or should their education be on the bottom?
I would say in general, how I go about it is to put the education on top. We do a lot of like resume editing in our agency, and we pretty much put the education on top because depending on the job, a bachelor's degree might be required. So you want to make sure that, whoever's reviewing the resume can see that, right away, because that could be a hard requirement, or, a master's degree.
Got
Yeah,
it.
and just to add some additional color there, thank you so much, Julie. If you're a student and you're thinking to yourself, oh, shoot, I don't have work experience, your education is utilized as experience. So you could bring that to the top to highlight internship works that you've done, projects that may be relevant. And then where Julie listed out that the non-relevant experience could be like, oh, it's just a college job, so I'm going to list it here to show that I have worked, and I'll give a bullet point or two, but the education comes to the top to really fill out the experience that may not be there yet.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Rebecca, because for someone who's still building their work experience and they're trying to tell their story through their job, like how do people list these things, or internship, school projects, or any volunteer work? And
Mhm.
also, and how would that apply for people who are doing a change in careers?
Yeah, so it'll be the formatting is going to be the same, right? So before every experience, you always do action to the experience. So you could see in one of the examples we said guide the practice delivery of, implement, assist, work, right? All of those are action items followed by what actually occurred. By bringing your education on top, you're going to do the same exact thing. So you could say, for example, I work at, or sorry, school is LIU, master's in public health, year obtained was this. And then your next line would be internship here, bullet points, internship here, bullet points. And then beneath it, you would then go into other work experience and you could list off anything else that may have occurred, or other volunteer experience and list off anything else that may occur. Just be mindful, if it is not relevant to what you're hoping to obtain, keep it to at most a bullet or two, right? So if you're thinking to yourself, oh, I was a dog walker,
Mhm.
great. You could put on a bullet or two about that, but unless you're hoping to get a career as a dog walker, you don't have to go any further than that.
Right. So I
Julie,
think
did I explain that right?
Yeah.
So I
That's-
think of like transferable skills, right? If I am trying to change, let's say, from being a program manager to now operations, how would I do that change? How can I list out those things so that those skills can be highlighted and I am seen for that type of role? Julie or Rebecca.
So
Yeah.
you're going from a program man, can you just repeat that again? So
Right.
from what jobs?
So if I wanted, because I like that you mentioned that, if you're applying, if you don't write it, if you're not applying to be a dog walker, right? So let's
Mhm.
put it into my perspective. Right now, I'm a current program manager, but I like to dabble in operations and I kind of want to do that career change.
Yeah.
How can I write that into putting that in my resume? So when the talent acquisition person sees
Mhm.
it, they say, yes, this person has the experience, transferable skills to be an operations manager.
Okay, great question. So, when you're thinking of transferable skills, especially if you're so clear in what you're hoping to go into next, like you are, Catherine, about operations, I would say use bullet points that speak to aspects of operations, right? So, even if your role was completely different and you weren't actually within operations at the time, project management has a lot of transferable skills, right? You are implementing possibly the vision of someone else, but you're still implementing it, right? So implement XYZ to obtain certain objectives, certain results. You still use action into result that occurred, right?
Mhm.
And what I would say is when you're taking your current experience or your current school or past experiences, even if, you've had a gap because you took time for family or what have you, go back and reflect on those past skills and have in hand be like operations and ask yourself. And if you don't know offhand what operations folks typically do or have, pull a job description that you want from a company you like and see what things they're referencing. And then look at the keywords. If they're saying, implement over and over and over again, put implement into your resume, right? It may be different than what you're implementing, but that knowledge shows, hey, they're speaking our language. They're thinking like we're thinking.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you, Rebecca. And um, Julia, Rebecca, you guys have seen hundreds of resumes. What makes one stand out and say, I have to call this person?
Yeah, I can definitely answer that question. So when I'm looking at resumes, I want to make sure that they're clean. There's an easy to read layout. You want to look for action-oriented language. So for example, some words would maybe be like led or organized, created, something that kind of pertains to that role. I guess it's a little bit similar to what we just discussed with transferable skills. Or just in general keywords. You want to make sure that there's inclusion of internships, relevant coursework, volunteer work is always good as well, depending on the role. even class projects with maybe some sort of real world relevance. And then I feel like also just demonstrating, initiative and eagerness to learn.
Oh, thank you. And what about, because some people before we were told that a resume should be one page only. What are the thoughts on one page only, and has there been any changes since I guess that idea was told?
I mean, I feel like it really depends on the situation. I like to make the resume short and sweet and to the point. Ideally, if we can fit everything on one page, that's ideal. But sometimes it just doesn't happen depending on the experience, depending on how many years of experience. We can try our best to consolidate, but sometimes it could be, give or take 2 pages. But we really try not to push that any further. If Rebecca, if you have any advice on that.
No, I think you're right on there. So typically when we're thinking of how long or short your resume should be, focus less so on the pages and the amount of bullets per experience, right? Because if your summary is capped at 5 bullets and then each job title from that point forward is also kept to 5 bullet points, that keeps it nice and concise. So even if, let's say you know, you've been in your career for 10, 15 years, or you're a physician or something where you really do have to provide a lot of meat to certain job titles, don't hesitate to going into above pages. Just make sure everything is properly, truly relevant. Because we've had instances where folks have referenced non-relevant experience. I'll use a dog walker example. Non-relevant experience, right? And they've also made that 5 bullet points. In those cases, we'll go through and let you know, hey, we're taking away 2 to 3 bullets here so that the focus is put more towards the actual relevant work. And that's what the mindset should always be. Is your resume speaking to the focus that you want the managers to pay attention to, right? If your top summary is a big paragraph, they're not going to read it. They're going to skim it at best. You need it to be visually appealing, clean and easy to read so that people understand what you're wanting them to walk away with, what sense you want them to walk away with.
Thank you so much. Those really insightful. And right before I'm going to ask one more question about resumes as we're going to transition to the next part of this panel. But Julie, if you could whisper in, an insider tip, right? Because we need to know. So every student here, what would you tell them? Hey, do this before you hit submit for that application. What would be your advice?
I would say to omit the irrelevant details. I feel like people are so focused on making their resume look pretty and perfect, and we get all distracted by the layouts and the linings and trying to even think of the things that we don't even use that because it's just not necessary. So I feel like, people will list all their hobbies, like for example, dog walker, singer, actress. I love doing this. Well, that's awesome. Great, but does that relate to the job? Probably not. Well, that actually takes me to my next point. Only if it does relate to the job, then put it on your resume. But there's a lot of stuff that usually doesn't. So I feel like that's my biggest advice, is just to make sure that everything that is on that resume is relevant to the job that you're applying to. And if that means taking out those details, then go ahead and take them out and just put everything that, pertains to that job.
Got
That
it.
was
So I won't put
such a good point.
I guess I won't put yoga instructor if I'm applying to be operations, unless we have fun Fridays. That makes sense.
Yeah, and we've seen, and just a whisper on behalf of all my HR colleagues that may be on this call with us, if you have a resume and you have your photo on it, take the photo off. Not only do some companies have HR policies where if any resume comes in with a photo, they cannot look at it for fear that it may come across as, in any way prejudiced based on a photo. Take the photo off. Yeah. LinkedIn's for photos, not your resume. Please do not put it on there. Yeah. Pretty please do not put it on there.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that part. So we're going to move over now to LinkedIn. Julie, thank you so much for your insider tips. Rebecca, I'm going to kick it over to you. I want you to tell us a little bit more about LinkedIn, and then I'll ask a little bit follow-up more questions.
Thank you. All right, so I'm actually going to go ahead and share my screen here. So you all are going to see my LinkedIn here. Let me know if you're able to see this.
We can see it.
Beautiful. Okay, so I'm just going to walk you through some sections here. While I can't show you an actual candidate's LinkedIn who is currently trying to find a job, I can show you mine. So the sections are going to be very similar, right? First and foremost, your photo. It should look like you. So for those that have used AI and modified their photos, or if your photo is, 10, 12 years old, it doesn't look like you. Your profile will look pretend, and therefore people will see your profile, think it's a fake profile, and move on. So real photo of yours, clean, nothing in the background, just a simple headshot. Rule of thumb is it should be the same amount you can see in this video right now. So you can see it's roughly, from mid shoulder up, right? And then your banner, very similarly, should be very clean, concise. You can see I have a work related banner. If you have a work one, you can use. I recommend it. If you do not use anything that would be something you may want to put on Facebook, right? LinkedIn is professional first and foremost. So any personality you're putting forward should be about how you are a professional and skilled individual. So here you could do something as simple as just a generic background that LinkedIn provides if you really don't have anything specific to include, and that's okay. Then when you move down, you're going to see this nice little edit button. When you click the edit button, this is where you could go in and do all your info. So the info that you're going to see in the edit button is going to be similar, slightly different from mine. So I'm just going to walk you through the different options. First is your headline here. So you can see here that mine is my job title and my company. Yours may be something similar. It could be Masters of Public Health student, recent grad from this location, project manager at Northwell, right? It should be short, concise, to the point. You want to think to yourself, it has something very relevant about your current state. So for those that have had LinkedIn for a long time, like myself, if your header is old because you've changed jobs or you've changed, promotions, what have you, please just keep that updated. Contact info. The more contact info you have here, the more reachable you are as an individual, right? Please make sure you are not linking any personal social medias that you may have to your LinkedIn. So if you have a Facebook, a Twitter, a whatever, do not put it on here unless it is so professional you are comfortable walking up to your boss and saying, hey, look, right? Then you have these nice little buttons here. This is where your banner, while mine says hiring because I'm currently looking to hire folks, yours would say open to work. Now you're going to have the choice to say whether or not you want it open to everybody to see, which I do recommend unless you are currently seeking a new opportunity confidentially. If you are doing it confidentially, you'll have that ability to select that, and then only the recruiters, like my lovely colleagues Julie and Juliet, would be able to see your profile. So that's going to be these sections here. When you move down, it's the about section. So mine's lengthier than yours is most likely going to be because mine is work-based. Yours is going to be that top section of your resume. Remember how we were talking about those 5 bullet points that you want to include, those quick hits about your background? That's where this is going to go. It's going to have one sentence at the top, and it's going to be like, I am a project manager at Northwell, where my specialty is this, 5 bullet points, boom, 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 right? Or I'm a new graduate of this. I'm so excited to enter the healthcare world because I'm passionate about this, 5 bullet points, boom, 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 boom. And that way people could get a quick, easy glance of what you're doing, and the things you write are searchable by LinkedIn's AI. So our lovely recruiters will be able to see that come through. Featured, this for me is an inside look of my company. For you, this is where you're going to add in your resume. If you are able to, because you're not searching confidentially, please add in your resume. It makes it incredibly easy for recruiters to be able to find you and ask questions and do a deep dive. For those thinking to yourself, will LinkedIn automatically parse my resume into my profile down here? No, it will not. But if that is stopping you from filling out a LinkedIn, ask yourself how serious you are about finding a new job. Then you have activity. So when we're thinking about activity, a lot of folks are going to tell themselves, well, I don't have a lot to say because maybe I'm a student or I'm in my same job, so there's nothing really to share. That's okay. You could repost other colleagues' posts. You could share things from networking events like Healthcare Leaders of New York that we all went to, or hopefully a lot of you went to. You could share things from companies that you find interesting, news articles that you find interesting, anything that basically gets your profile in front of other people. I say at least once a week. Ideally, if you could do it twice a week, that would be amazing. But start small, don't overburden yourself, and don't overthink it either. Even if it's literally like a sentence or two, that's enough. Your profile is now getting more and more attention, and the activity proves that you are a real human, not a dummy profile. Then experience. I'll expand mine a little bit. So experience here should be very straightforward. It should be your job title, where you worked, the exact dates, and then your about information, right? If you're wondering what to put here, you can copy and paste those same bullets and drop them right here. A lot of people make the mistake of going through and making, like, for example, if I said Tandem Group 2016 to 2018 staffing manager, and then a new job as though it's a new company, Tandem Group 2018 to whatever, it's going to show up as multiple companies. And so people won't see that continuity in promotions. So instead, what I recommend is create that one company, list out your years. And if you want to go through and list out the promotions, you're going to have the ability to all under that same company profile. Also, make sure if you're saying you're presently working somewhere, you're actually working there. There's a lot of profiles many of us have that show present on like 5 or 6 work experiences because we forget to close out the old ones when we make new ones.
So Rebecca, just real quick for
Yeah.
that and the experience, how much is enough, right? How much do I need to put?
So I would say 5 bullet points is all you ever have to put. Realistically, when it comes to LinkedIn, you could really do like 2 to 3 bullet points, especially if you're attaching your resume, right? Here, this LinkedIn is used as very like a concise, quick, and easy way for people to understand backgrounds, and then they'll dig in and try to get more information, right? If you have received multiple promotions and you want them all to show, which I recommend if you've especially changed like departments, right? So I've been in healthcare all 9.5 years, so I haven't really changed departments. But say I went from healthcare to accounting to IT, our different staffing sectors. Well, in those cases, I would make different job title lines because I want people to know, hey, I have worn many hats and these are the different skills I've obtained under each title at the same company, right? So jumping into like the project manager experience, wanting to go into operations, you could say project manager here. And before that, I was, you know, administrative director here, and I was a different title here. That all will show not only are you a versatile candidate, but you've been promoted and you have transferable skills.
Oh, okay. So can you scroll up a little bit? I want to point something out. How about when it comes to LinkedIn and having a URL? I think I saw it above.
Yeah. So your
So-
URL is something you're going to be able, when you click this edit button, let me see if I could actually do it on your behalf. Okay.
Because I see
So
on the
when you,
right side, on the right side too.
yeah.
Right there.
So when you do your URL, you should be able to change. It's taking me to my corporate one, so you're not going to see you'll see a different pop-up, but you'll be able to click this, and rather than it being like linkedin.com/LinkedIn, bunch of numbers, change it to be your name. I have a fairly common name, but even then I only had to add the E to make myself unique, right? So try to keep it as close to your real name as possible. If you have to add in numbers, please don't put your birth year
Okay.
or birth date, you know. Think of a different naming convention that you could use. If you are going to add your birthday here, no birth year, right? You don't want to give HR pause that it may look like discrimination when it's not, right? So just remove anything that may make them cautious.
Right. And then my question is because we have a lot of people, and especially with students, when they're in school or they're about to graduate and they say, I don't have LinkedIn, I don't believe in it, I don't want it. How important do you think LinkedIn is for especially early careers and students in trying to get that experience or trying to get the LinkedIn? Like, is it important?
Exceedingly important. I mean, it is so important. If there's a candidate out there that is like, I'm not willing to get LinkedIn, and that is the hill they're dying on, I would really recommend that they take a strong look at what hills they're trying to fight, because LinkedIn is not only an amazing way to stay in front of companies that you're interested, stay aware of the healthcare space, connect with your colleagues and potential managers, but it's also a great way to represent yourself. And regardless if you have a LinkedIn or not, you will be Googled. When you apply to a job, we will Google your name. If my recruiters don't do it, I guarantee you I will, because I need to know, or is there anything I need to be concerned about? And if the first thing I Google is your LinkedIn profile, I'm probably going to stop there. But if I don't see a LinkedIn profile, I'm going to do so much digging that I will find your socials, right? Because
Like that you say that because that really does give the motivation to, I'd rather you stop at my LinkedIn than look me up.
right. So ask yourself, would you rather I find your LinkedIn or your Facebook and Twitter or your Instagram, right? Because a lot of what we do as professionals is go, okay, I'm not just representing a piece of paper. I'm representing a whole person. So I want to be able to show this manager, hey, not only have we interviewed them before we present them to the manager, or if you go directly to the manager, that manager is going to go, okay, I see this paper, but who is this person? Before I give them 30 minutes to an hour of my time out of my day, who is this person? Let me try to find out. The first thing that they do is pop your name into LinkedIn. And if you don't appear there, they will pop your name into Google. And it is very easy to stumble across people's social medias, which, while it is not a talking point for today, please know everything is able to be found on LinkedIn. So, or everything is able to be found on the internet. So anything you put out is searchable. So just be aware of that.
I like that you say that because on LinkedIn we see opportunities to like and share. So what is something that what is one of a LinkedIn habit that you wish a mistake that you wish people would stop doing, or any small changes that would make a huge difference?
So for the stop, it would definitely be treating LinkedIn like Facebook. Very often we have people sharing their personal, political, religious, any of those types of things. This isn't really the forum for it. And you don't want that to be the reason that people remember you, right? You want them to remember you for the good. So when we're thinking of good habits, it's making those connections. Once you build your profile, this is the easy stuff. Adding in your education, adding in the skills, where you volunteered, giving and getting recommendations. That's all the easy stuff. The activity is what keeps you relevant. So if I'm interested in, let's say, joining Northwell, for example, I want to join Catherine's team. Well, I would go in, I would search Northwell and make sure I'm following that company. I don't want to jump into your company stuff, so I'll jump into mine so that I'm not messing with stuff. There's this follow button here. So when you're in a company, hit this follow button. And if you really want to stalk them, there's this little button here where you could say, I want to see every single post that they do, right?
Wow.
You could go in, you could like it, you could comment on posts that are shared, or you could just stay up to date about jobs that are coming out. You'll notice that every company has this little jobs page that is here. So you're seeing stuff that it would look just like this for you.
Mm.
Right? You wouldn't see this top section, but you would see this. You would be able to search for particular jobs based on it. And more importantly, once you start following this profile, you could jump in and watch things like, oh, what is this company about? And read things like this. They have life at tandems. All right, well, let me dig into the company. And if you decide it's something you like, try to connect with people in either departments that are relevant to you or maybe HR that you might want to connect with and just get your name in front of them a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you. And then let's say that I follow this company or I follow a hiring manager and an opportunity shows up or one of the recruiters. And I go and see whatever job they have and I apply. But what is it allowed to follow up with that hiring manager or to reach out and say, hey, I'm interested in the position that you're sharing?
So that's a great question. So let me give you this example. I'm going to show you how it looks from your point of view. Okay. So this is what you're going to see when you look at certain different job opportunities, right? It's going to recommend people that you could reach out to based on your connections and who you follow. But realistically, if you're going to follow up on a job, you want to follow up with whoever has posted this job. So you could see here, we didn't list out who the hiring manager is, but we left options for people to reach out and respond to. So they could apply, right? You're going to have to ignore some of this information. That's more from my point of view when I'm trying to hire people. But you could reach out to apply and share this information. When you apply to a particular role, you're going to see if they list out a hiring manager. Most companies don't. And the reason for that is they don't want you reaching out to HR. They would rather HR handle the communication in one streamlined process. So normally I'm very apprehensive to recommend people reaching out individually outside of the job postings. It's something that if they're interested in you, you hear from them, right? If you are still looking for a job, I would much rather see you apply to more companies in that same field of interest than reach out to individuals at that company repetitively. Because the worst thing you could do is annoy an HR person because they are the first line of defense before you get to the hiring manager.
Understood. And what about the hiring managers that put positions available in their team and they say, I have this available position
So
here.
that is such a good point. So as I'm a hiring manager, so I could actually show you this, right? So you see, I'm hiring these individuals here, right? If anyone reached out to me about the opportunities that I'm showing I'm hiring, you will get a response. You will. It may be, please apply to this. My HR team will be in touch, but I will respond. If you get the response of, please apply, my HR team will be in touch and they are looking at it, take that at face value, thank them, tell them how much you appreciate their time, that you're going to send your information in and apply for the job, and you hope for the opportunity to interview. And that's it. Don't ask for anything beyond it because, again, same thought process. If they're telling you to follow HR procedure, you want to show them first and foremost, you could follow instruction.
Yes, I like that. Thank you. And we're gonna kind of now shift it over now to interviewing 101. So thank you. And
My
we
Catherine,
pleasure.
also have a
did
special
we want to
training.
take any particular questions on LinkedIn before we went into interviewing? I saw a few in the chat, that's why I'm asking.
Yes, we asked that we do chat questions at the end of the panel.
Okay.
Thank you. What I was going to say to everyone in the panel is that we have a special treat for all the people that joined. We have a LinkedIn the sheet to kind of give you some basics and help in upgrading your LinkedIn. So with further ado, we're going to move over to Juliet, and then we're going to go over all the questions in the chats. So Juliet.
Thank you.
Okay. So Juliet, before we start, I just kind of had to ask you, if you had to describe how interviewing feels today compared to 5 years ago, what's changed the most?
Sure. So in my opinion, and I'm sure everyone can agree, the pandemic itself was really key catalyst for the major change from traditional in-person interviews to now a more remote or, hybrid screening process. It's definitely more efficient, more flexible, definitely more cost effective. You don't have to get in the car, get gas, go be somewhere at a specific time. So, with that being said, there's a lot of positives, a lot of pluses, but a lot of change. Um, it definitely offers candidates more flexibility. Scheduling has become much easier for them to meet with hiring managers quicker, enabling them to fill jobs faster. So that's a huge plus, and that's why we're seeing a lot of interviewers and companies, organizations not revert back to the in-person model, speeding things up along with a Microsoft Teams interview or a Zoom. It's virtual. You can still meet face to face in a professional setting, follow up by like an in-person tour, and at least they're getting the process started and getting them through the door quicker. And then we're also finding, in addition to that, remote interviewing is also allowing interviewers and organizations, HR, to expand their talent pool. So they're able to meet, candidates virtually anywhere, who maybe can do, a remote or hybrid type role or setting, versus just their local network. So they're branching out and finding talent outside those like local, close by areas as well.
Got it. And what separates a candidate about when they talk about wanting a job from the ones who feel that are ready for it?
So what I can say is showing the enthusiasm, coming prepared to the interview, doing your homework. I mean, there's so much, you can want any job, right? You can, say yes to everything, but if you're truly dedicated, you will do the homework. You'll know the organization, the person who you're interviewing with, knowing your audience, being passionate about, that industry that you're stepping into. So that right there will speak volumes, to me as a recruiter, seeing, hey, this role involves working with pediatrics. I love children. This is where, I see my future. Or, hey, if this is a psych role, I eventually want to, I'm a nurse, I'm an RN, I want psych. Eventually, I want to get my NP. You can see the passion, in what they talk about in their experiences. So that'll also help us, match them to the right positions. Was that helpful? Was that a good answer?
It was great. Thank you. That really helps. And first impressions really do matter. So what really creates that connection within the first few minutes?
Oh yeah, for sure. So first impressions, first and foremost, I can't say this enough, arrive 10 to 15 minutes early on an interview, whether you're in person or if it's virtual, log in 5 to 10 minutes early, even if you're waiting there and you want to, flip your camera on, making sure everything is working properly. Early is on time. Don't procrastinate and try to log in 1 minute before, because there will be a technical issue and then you will be late. So, early is the best. First impression, smiling, presentation, right? Smiling, greeting everyone in a warm manner, warm demeanor, friendly, shaking hands. This is all appropriate, body language, and just being positive and giving off that positive energy on the interview in a happy way, smiling, and that's just being engaging and open, approachable. We're looking for those things, whether us recruiters are screening them or, if they're meeting with our clients, we encourage them and prep them to do the same.
And again, taking time, do your homework. You don't need to be a subject matter expert or a guru, but just know the organization, understand the role you are applying to, read the job description. I know it sounds silly sometimes, but just go back to the basics, know the job that you're applying to, know who you'll be meeting with, know what their name is. I can't even say sometimes, sometimes candidates get nervous. I forgot who I met, know the person ahead of time. Look them up on LinkedIn, do a little research. Maybe you went to the same school and there's instant connections there, use these tools and resources to your advantage. And preparation in general just shows genuine interest in the role, and will set you up for success. And lastly, I don't want to forget business professional, no ball caps, no sweatshirts, sneakers, dress to impress. If you were going to make the decision to hire, would you hire someone wearing this? Show up. And I always feel, and in my personal experience, when I am dressed up, I feel I always do a better presentation, with communication and feeling more confident when I am dressed up, and set up for success for the day. So always dress to impress.
Got it. And what about when you're interviewing via online? Tell me a little bit more of how does your background matter, your connection, internet connection? Are these things that could work against you or for you?
Absolutely. So, especially with online interviews, I would say, the same thing, dress to impress, be in a well-lit, quiet area, have your camera turned on at eye level, make sure that the volume is on. I would log in early and test the links and make sure everything is working appropriately. I would be seated at a desk in a professional room with a background turned on, so that it appears in a professional setting. These things can work against you. So sometimes, convenience can, the convenience of the virtual interview can actually work against you if you don't do these things in advance, to prepare. And again, just be aware of the technical, what can go wrong. Log in, put the background on, make sure everything is working properly. I can't stress that enough. And again, dress to impress, the same as if you were to go in person. Make sure that you have like professional attire on, and that you would dress the same as if you would go in person.
Gotcha. So I got the interview, I'm coming in, I'm dressed to impress, I'm confident, and I'm sitting in front of this hiring manager and I'm going to answer questions. What is it, and I think Rebecca, maybe you can help me with this one. Can you tell me a little bit, everybody talks about the STAR method. What is the STAR method? For us to understand how to make it sound
Yes.
natural and
So
sorry.
no, this is easily one of my favorites, right? So the STAR method is basically the questions that you get that the manager's like, tell me a story, right? So the STAR method is situation, task, action, result, right? So an example would be, tell me a time when you had to deal with a difficult colleague. How did you overcome a tight time crunch for a project? What did you do when you didn't have a manager you were able to go to for advice, right? All of those really like open-ended questions where they want you to story tell. This is the STAR method. This is what they're doing. They're asking you something in hopes that you are going to answer in this structure, which I'm about to give very specifically. So provide context, say what your task was, describe the steps you took, describe the result, right? So context, if Catherine is asking me, tell me about a time you dealt with a difficult colleague and how you overcame it, I would say context. In my last role at Apple Box Company, I was working with a colleague and we were both trying to become dog walkers. Unfortunately, that colleague was somewhat difficult to work with because we were facing communication issues with, and I'm going to say the task, right? So context, where I was working, what my title was, who my colleague was. Task. We were dealing with communication issues because we had to ensure that we walked 20 dogs within a given day. And very often we were either overlapping on who could be, giving that particular service, or unfortunately, there were instances where dogs weren't walked that day. So this is what I did. Now I'm going into the step by step. So I did context, task. Now I do step by step. So this is what I did to try to resolve that. I made up an Excel sheet so that we could say by location who was doing what, and that was a shared document. That way, if anything ever changed, a dog no longer had to be walked, or my colleague or I was out sick for the day, there was a place we both could go to know exactly what needs to be done. Fortunately, this did improve. We were able to walk more dogs and meet our metrics of seeing 20 dogs in a day. It still was a difficult environment with the communication challenges there. I won't underplay that, but fortunately, we were able to move forward and make a healthy, and then you could say relationship, you could say we were able to obtain metrics, whatever you want, but you end with result, right? So STAR method: situation, task, action, result. Your answers: context, tasks, step by step, result. You're just mirroring it, right? So the story method is used in every interview. If any of you have ever gone on an interview, you have been asked a STAR method question, right? Same thing with like, oh, what's your biggest strength? Don't just say organization, tell a story, right? Use that same method, tell the same story. They're like, oh, actually, you know what? When I was working at Dog Walker Company, I had to ensure that all the dogs were being seen in a given time. And I really got the chance to lean into my biggest strength, which I personally believe is organization. I did that by doing this. And fortunately, it resulted in this. You just go right back into the STAR method, because I promise you, they're not looking for yes or no, and they're not looking for a one-word answer question.
I like that, and especially with that example, because there's times where I never like that question. So it really is about telling a story. What you did was the situation, what was the outcome, what was your role within that. I've seen this either as well as fellowship interviews, where students are asked these questions and they kind of go on tangents. They don't speak on their examples. So how important is it to stay concise and on trying to tell that story?
So staying concise is definitely important, right? It shows that you're able to understand what the interview is asking, and more importantly, get to the result, right? So normally when I notice people go on tangents, it's because their nerves are getting the best of them. Happens to everybody. I'm nervous right now, right? It's okay. That is a perfectly human reaction. The adrenaline is coursing through your body. It's keeping you sharp. It's keeping you focused. That's okay. But how do we counteract this, right? When you're asked a question, restate it. Give yourself that extra second or two. Make sure you heard the question properly. When you restate it, you're then able to go in and tell the story. And if you need to, write the STAR method on like your resume, right? If it's in person, you're bringing a copy for them and you have a copy for yourself. Okay, great. In your margins, feel free to go ahead and put situation, task, action, result. That way, if you get asked a question, you could go, oh, okay, you asked me about this. I actually have a great example. You glance down at your resume, you remember situation, task, action, result. You take a deep breath and you share the story. If your story goes on for more than like a minute or two, you're on a tangent.
Okay, so you should aim for like a minute or two kind of story.
Right, because your interviewer has usually 30 minutes to ask you a lot of questions, right? So you want to just be mindful of that, because you're always going to have time at the end to ask more questions or shed light on additional information if something wasn't covered. But even when you do the situation, task, action, result, you should still be able to hit that like 2-minute mark.
Makes sense. Thank you. And Juliet, so just turning it back over to you, what is an interview moment that has stuck with you, good or bad? And what did it teach you?
An interview moment, you said good or bad?
Mm-hmm.
So, what can I say? So not being prepared with your own questions. This is, I'll usually, when I'm interviewing candidates during a pre-screen is what we call, I'm screening them before we're presenting them to the client and preparing them to interview ultimately with the client to get the job. So if they're not asking me questions, they're likely not going to ask the client questions. And I always coach them and encourage them. It's my biggest, tip and trick. Ask good questions, ask open-ended questions that allow the interviewer to take the floor and will, provide you more context into the job, the day-to-day. Like, for example, what are the, patient volumes and the day-to-day responsibilities like? This is open-ended and the client can really, dig deep into what their day-to-day is like. Or for example, what is the team dynamic and structure like? They can give you a good idea of how their teams are made up and what the expectation is of, who you'll be working with on a day-to-day basis, who will be supporting you, who will you be supporting, so that they can provide clarity on that. These questions will not only give you more information as well, but they will show the client or the interviewer that you are genuinely interested in the job. You're seeking out this information to weigh your options and see if this is a good fit for you. You're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. So I think the lack of asking questions, because candidates do get nervous and they want to just be able to answer questions, but come prepared to ask questions as well. Another, something else that I found through my experience is that at the end of the call or the end of the interview in person, to always thank the interviewer. It's again, back to basics, just showing respect and consideration, thanking them for their time and ending it on a positive note. When can I expect to hear back? That is the best way to leave the interview. It shows, again, interest, that you're interested in next steps, and you're asking them for a timeline. You're not walking away from the interview not knowing when you will be contacted. You're asking for a timeline. When can I expect to hear from you? And it shows them, hey, Catherine's interested in this position. We're more inclined to give her an offer because she will likely accept it. So, leaving always on a good note and asking for a timeline, because you're obviously interviewing as well for other positions and need to be mindful, of what the timeline will look like.
Yeah, and thank you. And that makes total sense because usually it's that part where you come into the interview and then the interviewer says, "Do you have any questions?" And people go, "No." And it's like you missed out on this huge opportunity to ask as many questions or show your interest. And I always tell people, come with questions, research, ask what you wish you would know about this organization or anything about the day-to-day. So thank you for sharing on that.
One of the best questions too, you just helped me remember is, what do you love about working here? And I think that is just such an awesome question because it'll, throw them off a little bit and then they can just be themselves and tell you why they love working there so much. And I think that's the best way to get the best insight into seeing if that's a good company for you. Does this person like working here? What do they love about it so much?
Yeah,
So I highly recommend that question as well.
That is
I'm gonna
such a
write that
great
question.
point, Juliet. I've seen working with clients that when candidates ask that question, the odds of them getting the job are going to increase because it's reminding both individuals that you're human, right? So if I turn to you and I go, Catherine, what drew you to Northwell? What makes you passionate about working here? What do you love doing here? Any question about the individual and why they're here, how they got their start, what makes them excited is going to give you an opportunity to connect as a person, be like, oh my God, that's really interesting. Because one thing that's often forgotten is the person you're interviewing with is the one that's going to be your manager. So if you leave that interview and you don't know what kind of manager they are, it draws a little bit of concern on my end when I'm thinking, okay, what if they start this assignment and they didn't get to know this manager at all? What if they don't work culturally, right? So that's such a great question, Juliet. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna write that down for my next interview. So we're gonna finish up with this last question that I've prepared, and then we're gonna jump on to Q&As. We have a lot of questions that have been asked through the chat and through the panel. So the last question I have is, after the interview ends, what is the most professional way to stay on someone's radar without crossing the line? Usually people are afraid of sending a LinkedIn request. They don't know if it's appropriate or not. So what is the advice on that?
So regarding LinkedIn, I would always encourage anyone who's interviewing to look. You can always view someone's profile. I wouldn't necessarily suggest to add the contact. You haven't interviewed or met with them yet. I would just view the profile. It shows that you're doing your research. You know, they'll see that you viewed it. So that's always a plus. But regarding follow-up, I would stay prompt and professional. Send an email. You know, email is the quickest way, the most effective way. In today's world, send an email within 24 hours of the interview. Keep it short and sincere. You can certainly follow up with a handwritten note or letter. It's more heartfelt. It's more, what's the word? You know,
Personal.
genuine and however, the email will reach the interviewer quickest, especially if they're making a fast decision, you know, within the next day or so. So I would strongly encourage to send an email within 24 hours, thanking them. Keep it short and sweet. I think this is the best way to follow up, maintain professionalism, and you know, they'll be very grateful to receive it.
Thank you. And thank you, Rebecca, Juliet, and Julie, for sharing your insights. I am now opening up to Q&A, and I'm turning it over to Aditya, who will be reading some of the questions that we received during the panel. And
Thank you.
again, Tandem.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine, Rebecca, Julie, and Juliet, for this extremely insightful conversation and really hitting all of the key points that, a lot of all the burning questions that people have. And so I'll start off. We have a lot of great questions from the chat. So thank you, everybody, for participating and putting your questions in. So I think one, that always comes to mind. So what's the best way during an interview to answer that? Tell me a little bit about yourself question. How do you gauge that? What's the best way to answer that?
Yeah, so that's a question you're definitely going to get, right? It's usually a question that you get at the start of an interview, especially if the interviewer is trying to work their way to like getting into your resume or getting into specifics, right? When in doubt, rely on the STAR method. So situation, task, action, result. So if someone asked me to tell me about myself, I would say, oh, well, I'm a managing director here at Tandem. My current role is to help companies hire individuals. And I do this by reaching out to my community, connecting with the managers, understanding what their true needs are, and then providing them with candidates after we've already interviewed them, right? So all I did was contest, task, step-by-step result, and that took me maybe a minute. If you're a student or you're a new grad and you're thinking to yourself, oh, what do I say in this case? Well, you go, oh, well, I'm a recent master's in public health administration candidate where I had the pleasure of learning at Long Island University. And my coursework took me through these particular courses, which I'm really passionate about because I believe we could help this community, right? You're going to give that same STAR method. You're going to keep it short, sentence or two. And it's really there just so that the interviewer could be like, oh, thank you so much. Let me delve into your resume without them going, hello, person. I'm not going to ask you anything about yourself. I'm going to ask you only about your resume. That's why you get the question so often.
No, great answer. Because sometimes you think about how far back do I go? Do I start from birth? I was born on June, blah, blah, blah. Tell you of your life, right? But I think, as you said, following, right, that STAR method, and you keep your answers very structured, clear, and concise.
Mm-hmm.
So what if you're, a candidate, let's say you're looking to move out of state or, West Coast to East Coast. So does location of a candidate affect getting an interview? How do you tackle that if you're looking to relocate?
Yeah, so if I know a candidate is looking to relocate, so there's two thoughts, right? If they've applied to my job, my assumption is that they've read where the work location is. When I see their resume, if I see a city and state that is different from the work location, that's going to give me pause. So if you're one of those individuals that is actively relocating or intending on relocating, remove the city and state from your resume and instead say relocating to wherever. And if you have it, include when you'll be in that city, or put the city and state where you're going to be moving to. If you're not sure of where you're going to be moving to, just remove city and state. You could clarify if you get the interview. Julie, do you agree with that sentiment? Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes.
It just really also depends. Like there's remote work. I mean, sometimes I feel like it's good to really make sure if that job is truthfully remote or if it's hybrid, because sometimes some of these companies still want the candidate to be within the state, even if it's remote. So that's something that we have seen before. So that's just a little advice.
Great. And so someone asked about in terms of interview preparation. So specifically, let's say you're interviewing for maybe a healthcare consulting role, maybe something in the startup world. And let's say you're asked to, and you're told that you will be receiving a case study, there's a case study portion of that interview process. Any insight on or any best practices on how would somebody prepare for a case study portion?
So those tend to be very specific to either the job or the company. Usually, if you're presented with a case study, like the case study that someone would get if they're applying to like a research coordinator role is going to be night and day from a case study that they may give to a social worker, right? But I would say when you're preparing for it, the first thing you should try to find out, if able, is the case study something that needs to be done in person, or is it something you're able to take away and return with, right? If it's done in person, then what they're assuming you're able to do is rely on either work experience or your current passion and interest to paint a picture. Um, a lot of times in those case studies, they're trying to see if you know how to follow either like particular procedure that may be attached to a typical job. It may be trying to figure out how you analyze information. Those tends to be incredibly specific if they allow you to take away the information. When you turn around that case study, which if they allow you to take it home, turn it around same day, right? Do not wait 24 hours. It should hit their inbox, ideally within an hour of you being back at home or in front of a computer, right? Send the information over, but if you are using AI to help fill in some gaps, please rewrite it. Don't copy and paste from AI. We know it's not you. It reads like AI. You think it may sound super personal because you have the Chat GPT premium and it learns your writing language. It doesn't. We know, we could tell. We would much rather see you've read it and you've digested the information, you close out Chat GPT and you rewrote it in your own words. Let your passion come through because it won't through Chat GPT.
Absolutely, thank you. And so shifting over to LinkedIn, right? So in LinkedIn, we were looking to connect with others. We see whether it's for career change, interest, alignment, company, position. So what's the best way to reach out to professionals on LinkedIn in a way that's also professionally appropriate?
So networking, especially in LinkedIn, is one of the greatest things that you could do in all levels of your career, whether you're first or you're on your 20th year, right? LinkedIn is just an incredible resource. So when you're thinking about how do you connect, there's multiple ways. So if I wanted to connect today, let's say I wanted to connect with Juliet after this, right? The first thing I would do is send the connection, add a note. I would say, hi, Juliet, thank you so much for putting on this panel. It was amazing to learn and then state something that you actually obtained from it, right? You're more likely to get that connection. And then when you see them post things, they're like, wow, Juliet's looking for a nurse. I'm going to like it. I'm not a nurse, but I'm going to like it anyways, because I want her to know I'm supporting whatever her endeavors may be. It's also a great way for connecting with colleagues of your equal level, joining these networking groups like Healthcare Leaders of New York, and actually sending connection invites to the people that you meet, you work with, is a great way to build your network. And the people you know are going to be such a great resource for helping you obtain your future goals. But I would always say, if you're making that connection, try to include a note, try to make it relevant. If you can't make it relevant, it's okay. Still send that connection out, but interact with them as much as you can.
I just kind of want to jump in and piggyback on that because I just saw the chat. One of my greatest mentors, I actually met that way through LinkedIn. I heard him on the Healthcare Executive podcast from ACHE, and I reached out and I said, "Hey, I heard you on this podcast. I'm an incoming fellow for Northwell, and I heard what you're doing, and I think it's pretty great." And I'm so happy he was curious. And I just want to give him a shout out. Hi, Dorian. Thank you for attending because that's how we met. I reached out via LinkedIn. I shot my shot, like I tell everyone, and he answered. So any student here or anybody trying to do that, LinkedIn is a really good way to meet others and network. It takes away that scary part of rejection. That's okay. Just shoot your shot. You never know who you're going to meet and the impact that they're going to make in your life. So just wanted to say that and kicking it over to Aditya.
And in respect of everyone's time, I'll ask one final question before we move to our closing portion. Cover letters, right? So we've heard a lot of things about cover letters, a lot of myths about cover letters. What tips do you have to share with us regarding cover letters? Is that something we should be always including with resumes?
So that's a great question. Cover letters is definitely something that is being required less and less as the years go on. So it would not surprise me if in 5 years, no one's doing cover letters anymore. So no, do not include a cover letter unless you are specifically asked for a cover letter. If you are specifically asked for a cover letter, you want to keep it to maybe 3 paragraphs. You want to write it in like letter format. So for example, you would say, "To whom it may concern, thank you so much for your consideration." And then just like how that question was, tell me about yourself. And you're like, how do I start a cover letter? That's how. You say who you currently are. Your next paragraph is about the company. I'm interested in joining dog walker company because of this. This position for your third paragraph fits me because my passion is working with Labradors, right? And then at the very end, you say thank you with your personal contact information. Figure 3 sentences to a paragraph, so it shouldn't be terribly lengthy. And one other thing to just throw out there: resumes, cover letters, what have you, your font size should not be smaller than 11. We do have to go and fix that a lot. Font size 11 minimum, please.
Good call.
No, yeah, that's a great comment. And thank you so much for that, for that insight. And before I pass it over to Professor Gatto, I just want to share quickly in the chat a copy of our tonight's evaluation survey. So please take the time as we close out and afterwards, 2 to 3 minutes to please answer some questions. And we'd love to hear your feedback from tonight's events. So without further ado, Professor Gatto, I'll pass it back over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, very good. Okay. So, first of all, I want to thank our panelists. Truly, the information that has been provided here is a key and also a knowledge base to know that there's no simple task in applying for a position. or recruitment. And if we had more time, they'd probably talk a little bit more about talent acquisition and how most organizations utilize a unique software to pull keywords from your resume. So, and that's something that's very important to consider. So once again, we thank you for that. And also for Catherine and Aditya for their moderating and providing the slides that were key to the information flow. And certainly each one of these panelists, as well as HLNY, one can reach out to at any point in time. All right, and certainly we would love to take the time to help you, guide you, and provide some sense of mentorship, if you will. So once again, thank you to all. And to you, the participants, we thank you for being here. We hope you found this to be extremely, extremely important for your career journey. So HLNY is a rather comprehensive and very busy professional organization chapter of the ACHE. So as you can see on your screen, we have a number of upcoming events, including Lean Six Sigma series. This is actually our third series, but this is the actual Green Belt, which you can register for the November 10th program. Very important in terms of project management and the ability to be a solution person within your organization. Then we have Coffee with the Chiefs, kind of a new and unique opportunity. This has to deal with people and their experiences. So on November 6th, we have actually Arthur Gianelli, the CEO of One Brooklyn Health, who will be kind of talking about his own experiences and his ability to acquire positions at various levels and what it means to each one of you. And again, November 18th, Kalandra will be presenting Shifting Priorities, both in the industry and your own, and where you believe your passion lies, and that may shift, that may change as the industry changes. And then on November 20th, something we look forward to every year, Frank Cameraro, a memorial dinner and lecture. And this one promises to be an exceptional one where positioning to lead strategic career planning and healthcare professionals. Once again, you can't get enough of planning for your career. And with the shifting priorities, if you will, out there in the environment today, and the way facilities are really re-engineering their own positions, this is a rather important concept to consider. So we hope you will plan on joining us. This is in person at St. John's University. Please look at our website for all of these activities. And last but not least, our 2025 annual holiday party, where we get together and it's a true networking experience. And we look forward to seeing each one of you. All right, so please sign up for that. I think it'll be a great enjoyment. And if you will, you can subscribe to our HLNY calendar of all the past events, current events, a gallery of photos, people who you may see, people you may know, people you want to get to know in terms of their professional career. So HLNY.org. Look at our calendar and our calendar and our events, and we hope you will subscribe and be part of what's going on in the real world out there. All right, so we thank you for that. And none of this, to be honest with you, would not be made possible without the contributions and the sponsorship from many, many well-respected organizations out there. So for some of you who represent organizations that have, and each one of you have the ability to promote a sponsorship, we truly would appreciate that. And you could easily reach out to our sponsorship committee in order to be part of the breadth of healthcare leaders of New York. And truly, we thank each one of these sponsors for their support year after year. We couldn't do it without you. And as you can see, well-respected organizations at that. So we thank you again. So without further ado, I want to thank you and truly appreciate all that all that our panelists gave us today and all of your participation. And again, if you do have more questions, feel free to email the players that are involved here, and follow us on social media, hlny.org. We're on LinkedIn and YouTube. Please watch some of our YouTubes. And with that, I'll turn it over to Adit to do the final ending here.
Thank you so much, Professor Gatto. Thank you, everybody. Thank you again to all of our fantastic panelists. Thank you to our attendees. We appreciate all of you always. Thank you for your time. We hope you enjoyed tonight, and we will be sending a follow-up email with the recording and the evaluation survey and some exciting resources prepared by our colleagues from Tandem. So thank you. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Good night, and we'll see you soon for another event.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Send us your students' testimonials. We want to hear your stories.
Yes,
we want to see
please.
you in
Students,
person.
we want to hear about your journey. We want to highlight you. So please reach out to us at hen@hlny.org.
Take care.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Good evening. Bye.